Tonight's episode of America's Hometown Horror is presented by The Skin Store. You weren't here for this first ad read, Andrew, so go ahead and get your laughs out now. But,
I'm not even going to
don't even
approach that subject.
Skin Store, believe it or not, is not a dirty website. But just so you know, for over 20 years, The Skin Store has been the #1 destination for premium skincare, healthcare, and beauty products. With over 8,000 different products from 300 different brands, The Skin Store has you covered for all your hair, cosmetics, supplements, and of course, skincare needs! ! Find your favorite brands like Elta MD, NuFace, Olaplex, and more in one place with gifts with every purchase. Have you heard of any of those brands? No? Okay, fair enough. Right now, The Skin Store is offering listeners of America's Hometown Horror 20% off your next purchase by using the code POD. That's P-O-D for 20% off your next purchase at skinstore.com/pod.list. That's skinstore.com/pod.list. Again, not a dirty website, but a clean one with lots of skincare products. Skin Store, have the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Exclusions apply.
Also, not to be confused with POD, the early 2000s band.
Correct. Not the Christian band from San Diego
What did that
that
stand
had
for?
such singles as Payable on Death, like Rock the Party and Southtown and Alive and
Click, Click,
so alive.
Youth of the Nation.
Click, Click, Boom?
No, Click Click Boom was Saliva.
Oh, boo.
But yeah,
Same
POD.
difference.
They're kind of the same.
yeah,
it
so
sounded the same.
Skinstore.com/pod.list for 20% off, folks. What's happening, homies? What's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah. Mike and the...
What? I'm the ba-ba-ba-ba.
What is up?
I don't know.
It is ya boys, plural, and ya girl from
Baby and
America's...
the dog.
What up?
And ya dough from America's Hometown Horror. My name is Mike. Thanks for tuning into another episode of our show. We certainly appreciate the support and listenership. Hope everyone is doing well. And we are back for another episode tonight with lots to cover, lots of interesting things. And as always, I am not alone in my endeavor on this podcast adventure. I am joined by my fellow co-hosts, Catherine and Andrew. What's happening, guys?
Everybody?
How you guys doing?
Up? Nothing. What's up? Nothing.
What's up? What's
What's
up?
up?
What's up?
Nothing.
We're doing that again?
We can make that a thing again for sure. We can make it.
I miss those Budweiser commercials.
I
with
do
the
too.
frogs.
I do too. Oh, this was
them were the penguin ones. Doobie doobie doo.
Yeah, those were pretty cool. Those are pretty cool. Yeah, but thanks for tuning in to another episode. We have a good one for you tonight with lots of interesting news. One particular piece of news that is extremely relevant to our show that we will be breaking live when we drop this episode on Wednesday for the first time ever. We are breaking news, folks.
We're like the
Holy
Adam Schefter
cow.
of the horror podcast.
Adam Schefter of the horror podcast world. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. But what's been going on? Anyone watch anything cool lately? Andrew, I know you have. Talk to me about...
I watched 2/3 of a movie the other night. It was called The Signal.
Talk to me about The Signal.
It was a anthology-style movie. It was directed... I didn't know who that was because I'm bad with directors' names, but then I realized he had done Southbound, he had done VHS, done a bunch of stuff. So this is one of his earlier projects, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll start watching this. And you could tell it was very low budget, but it was very interesting, and it was basically the premise was that people were losing their minds off of a certain radio signal, whether it be their TV talking to them, the radio talking to them, cell phones, like every signal was interrupted. And if you listen to it,
mad.
If you listen to it too long, you'd go mad and you just start killing everybody. And it was almost so it was borderline like a zombie apocalypse. Like if you went because they basically turned into zombies that just started killing everybody. And even when once they had been affected by the signal, even if you had killed them, they weren't dead. They didn't die. They would come back.
Sounds a lot like the Stephen King novel Cell. which if you've ever heard of that one, basically it's a cell signal that turns everyone into essentially living, waking zombies without having been bitten or died.
Essentially the same idea, I guess, then. Yeah, because they would be killed and then they'd be back, and I was like, well, they're human still, but they had a signal. So I got through 2/3 of that anthology, and I didn't watch the final third yet.
Huh.
But it was entertaining. It had a lot of comic relief, similar to like Shaun of the Dead, I found in it. Like, at the beginning, it didn't start out that way, but then in the second part of the trilogy, it started getting into more of like a comedic relief aspect, which I thought was interesting. But it was, for what appeared to be a very low-budget movie, it was very entertaining. And I think it was on Amazon Prime for free, so check it out. I mean,
hell yeah. If you have Amazon Prime, that sounds good. Sounds also a little bit Lovecraftian. The signal turns you mad, which might tie into our movie of the night.
I think it does. I think that's why I watched it, because...
So, recommend for our listeners 2/3 of the way through?
Yeah, I would recommend it. Okay. I couldn't find any qualms to bring up about it. So, yes.
Good stuff, my friend. Okay, so The Signal, directed by David Bruckner, and honestly, his
2007 or 2006, but just make sure you look it up by the year, because there's so many movies called The Signal.
Yeah.
So you may get confused. There was one with, like, Lawrence Fishburne that came out 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, yeah, Bruckner, his segments of VHS and Southbound are both phenomenal. Awesome director. I like him a lot. An up-and-coming horror director to watch, for sure. Catherine. Talk to me about Behind Her Eyes.
Oh, good. I was hoping you would ask me.
I thought you were going to say talk to me like lovers do.
Talk to me.
Tell me yours.
Like lovers do. No, we just finished it, so I want to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, so I saw this show on Netflix, and it kind of was intriguing. I was just looking at different stuff and trailers, and I was like, I added it to my list, and I finally said to Mike, I was like, would you be interested in watching this? So, I don't know. It's kind of horror, a little bit. It's more like a thriller, though, I think. Like a psychological
Much more of a psychological thriller. Yeah, it's not
horror. But I liked it a lot. I think it met my expectations of being interesting and entertaining. It was very, like, psychological. There was a lot of mental health things. It was kind of like a whodunit. Did this guy kill this person? Did this person kill that person? Like, what's going on? Like, the entire time you're kind of just wondering what the story is. And it kind of went into the whole nightmare episode that we were talking about before.
Yeah, a lot of it's based on dreams. Yeah.
It's very heavily connected with dreams and nightmares and, like, kind of, falling asleep and then having your, like, subconscious, like, go into another realm, person. I mean, so it was kind of different. I liked it. I thought it was good. Like, it wasn't like the other show you wanted me to that we finished the other.
Yeah, Tell Me Your Secrets. That show.
Tell Me Your Secrets.
That show smells.
That was
not fun.
No, this one at least ended on a good
high note.
A high note. Like, I feel like I watched it and I was like, now I kind of want more. Like, will there be a second season? Because it kind of I'd say like a thumb and a half.
Thumb and a half up from Cat.
I wouldn't say like 2 thumbs way up, but it was
2 thumbs kind of up.
It was good. Like, I'd watch it. I don't know if I'd watch it again, but I would be looking forward to another season.
Well,
like,
you have to say, would you watch another season?
I'd watch another season.
Because I wouldn't watch the first season again. I would maybe watch another season.
Well, there's certain shows like Derry Girls where you can watch it a billion times, and it's 2 thumbs way
that's
up.
A different scenario.
That's correct. Derry Girl. So I also watched this show, and
what did you think?
I enjoyed it. I didn't share quite the amount of enthusiasm that you did. I thought it was, and actually, I feel like it felt longer than it was. It was only 6 episodes.
Right.
Good length for a TV show because there's no filler. It's kind of, but there's a lot of jumping back and forth between timelines,
right?
Which
can be a little bit
confusing. Yeah. And spoiler alert: skip 30 seconds ahead if you don't want to be spoiled. You don't care. You're not going to watch it, right?
Spoiled.
So it deals with basically one of the main characters can astral project her consciousness out into areas that she's been before, and also into other people.
It's pretty
lucid dreaming. Is that where this?
Right.
Gets
So it's a murder. It's a murder mystery
Yeah.
with astral projection in the mix. It's kind of.
I feel like it would be underwhelming because it's such a great concept for a show that it takes a lot to to live up to those expectations.
But
I don't want to be disappointed. I'm just not going to.
They didn't really concentrate on that very much, but it just kind of became a thing at one point.
Well, I feel like you find out in the second to last episode exactly what's happening.
Going on.
You find out essentially that the main character can do this thing, and that she has essentially been controlling the plot the entire show. Which was it was a cool twist, and there's actually a really good twist at the very end of the show, which I will not spoil. That was good. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I don't think it was great, but I liked it. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
If you have nothing in your Netflix queue and you want to watch something interesting, this was pretty cool. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Nice.
It was
Good pick by Kat.
Yeah. Anyone else got anything they watched?
That's all I have recently watched.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Ready to move on to our news?
Yes.
And it's a big news day today, my friends. It is a big news day.
Can't wait.
So, as you listeners may have heard, we have talked several times on this show about a documentary being released this October about the Spooky World America's Horror Theme Park in Berlin, Massachusetts, that existed in the 1990s. And if you're from Massachusetts, and it's an institution, it's a place that you probably went if you like horror, if you like haunted attractions. And there's a documentary being produced about it, and we have been lucky enough to be in contact with the people that are making this movie. It's a place that I went a million times, not a million, but quite a few times when I was a kid in the 90s. And I am proud to announce that after much conversation, America's Hometown Horror is the exclusive podcast partner of Spooky World, the movie. And what I mean by that is that we are going to break news about the documentary. They're going to give to us.
Well, Mike's going to break news. I'm probably going to break wind.
There you go.
Fair
and
enough.
I hate the news, but I do love new news.
I like
about
this is
Spooky
good
World,
news.
so
This is great
good
for
news.
all of us.
Yes. I hate the other news, but I'm
And
excited to
here,
hear about Spooky World.
my friends, is the first piece of news as I look at this old 1996 Spooky World poster directly across from me in front of my microphone. I have it on good authority that the crew of Spooky World, the movie, at this point has over 400 hours of film. 400! That's a
lot of
shitload of
That's a lot of
footage.
film.
Okay? And we also have it confirmed that the director of the film, Quinn Monahan, who's out in Los Angeles, the original owner of Spooky World in Berlin, David Bertolino, and the producer of the documentary, Tony Landry, will be on America's Hometown Horror Podcast for a live show on Facebook and YouTube at the end of April to give us an exclusive interview just in time for halfway to Halloween.
So if you don't know,
How about
Now you know.
that?
now you know.
If you don't know, now you know.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, so we are partnering up with the Spooky World documentary. They've been great to us.
Very exciting.
Great guys, super supportive of our show, and I am so happy to be able to talk to them about the about their movie, about their podcast that they also do leading up to the movie.
This is kind of like a childhood dream of yours, Mike.
Right? I
Kind of,
know.
right? Honestly,
You,
like, it's-
like you spent your childhood
Yeah.
going to Spooky World, and
I know.
now you get to talk to
I know.
the guys.
It's funny because
the men who did this.
talking to the people from the documentary, I kind of feel like we're kindred spirits in a sense because this park had a special influence on all of our lives, and we probably wouldn't be, doing horror podcasts or doing horror theme park documentaries if it weren't for this particular place.
Because you wouldn't have developed your passion
Right.
for horror.
Right. I told them this, that I think, honestly, I would not be as big of a horror fan as I am today if it weren't for Spooky World. Had an impact on me, a huge impact at a young age, and it's kind of stuck with me ever since. It's why I love haunted attractions. It's why I love horror movies. It's why I love horror in general. And I could not be more excited to chat with them. I feel like a kid in a candy store. What a great moment for us. And I'm
Absolutely.
so looking forward to this interview, which I can now confirm will be on Sunday, April 25th, 5 p.m., live on Facebook and live on the YouTube, my friends.
So it's going to be Sunday, 5
p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Spooky World and America's Hometown Horror Podcast team up for an interview.
Be there or
Come on down to
Or
the
beware.
Worcester Centrum
I
Center.
thought it would be funny.
Monster Truck Madness in Spooky World, America's Horror
It's
Theme
okay.
Park.
It's okay, Mike. It's okay to be a fanboy.
I am a fanboy.
You can be a fanboy.
Listen, I've never been
Fanboys-
shy about admitting my fanboyism regarding Spooky World, and these
I
guys
wish
share
that
my
I had your
enthusiasm. I'm so psyched.
for Spooky World. I didn't do those things when I was
I
younger.
know.
Didn't happen.
If you had ever been, if
I
you guys
was-
had ever been, I know
have been.
you went when it was at probably Foxborough Stadium.
Yes.
I don't think you ever went to the original
I didn't
Berlin
go to
Park.
Berlin. It was too far.
I know. So I went to the original Berlin Park. I also went to the park when it was at Foxborough. I also went when it was at Canopy Lake Park. And we've all been when it's at its permanent new location now under new ownership, which is in Litchfield, New Hampshire.
It's pretty good.
So it wasn't great last year. But
given the
this
circumstances-
back in the 90s was on a different level.
But they couldn't. They did with like what they could work with COVID.
I understand.
I mean,
I don't
they
want to. I don't
still-
want to slight them because
They still had it happen, which
Exactly.
was amazing.
Yep.
Like so many other places just didn't.
it was
have
still worth
a
the trip and it was still
haunted
fun. But yeah, so that's the biggest piece of news I have to report is that we are the exclusive podcast partner of Spooky World, the movie, and we will be interviewing them live on our show on Sunday, April 25th. How about that?
Look at
How about
us
that?
How
making
about
waves in the community. Shocking. All thanks to Michael.
Yes.
Because without Michael, there's no
Well, I appreciate
got.
that. But without you guys, there's no as well. So thank you, though. Thank you. Want to hear some other non-local news?
I would love
I
to.
guess.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
So
local news.
this will directly appeal to you. So I don't know why you're not
All right.
excited.
Okay. All right. Tell me.
So, oftentimes in the show, we have talked about a TV show on FX and a movie.
Are we going to keep talking about American Horror Story?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No,
Called
we talked about that before.
What
It's
We
fine.
Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
And
Tell me
how the
more.
What We Do in the Shadows movie and the What We Do in the Shadows TV show take place in the same shared universe. And I'm happy to report there is a new show coming to HBO Max. It's already been out in New Zealand and Australia, which is where the original What We Do in the Shadows movie
But it's not here
took
yet?
place. And it's called Wellington Paranormal. This show takes place in New Zealand, and it follows the police officers that went to the vampire's house in the first What We Do in the Shadows movie.
Oh.
Here is the plot description. Wellington Paranormal follows a group of police investigators as they track supernatural events in New Zealand. The crew look into cases of demonic possession, haunted houses, and blood bank robberies. And this is all set to take place in the What We Do in the Shadows universe. So we're probably going to see cameos from some of the vampires. Maybe Nandor the Relentless, Nadia,
That'd be
Laszlo,
amazing.
Guillermo,
Wow.
some of the other characters.
So fun.
You never know. But, Andrew, I know you haven't started watching this show yet, so this is probably tiered more towards me and Catherine.
Yes. You should watch What We Do in the Shadows.
You should.
I'm going to
absolutely.
not even bring that up at all. I'm just going to be an old man curmudgeon.
Yeah, you're going to tell us that we need to
Because-
watch that Dennis Quaid show on Amazon
No.
Prime. Yes,
I'm not
I
going
know.
to tell you that. What I'm going to tell you is that I'm so fucking
Fortitude.
sick of hearing about shared universes. And, well, there's a universe, and it's just shared, and
Well,
it's a
welcome to
Marvel universe.
2021,
Dude,
bro.
I don't care. Just show me a good movie. Show me a good show. It doesn't have to take place in some universe that I don't give a fuck about.
What We Do in the Shadows
can we
is
just,
a
No,
great
What We Do in the
show.
Shadows is phenomenal. The movie is phenomenal. I just can't. I don't know if I can physically take hearing about shared universes anymore because
I feel you.
I don't care.
I feel you.
I don't
I
care.
feel you, but this is one that I want to be a part of.
I'm down with it.
I'm with you.
I would watch it. It makes me think of beef Wellington, which is delicious.
The best.
But aside from that, I'm all
Shared
for it because I
universe
like Australian and
beef
New Zealand
Wellington.
horror and comedy. So
Okay, perfect. Fun fact. I actually had Gordon Ramsay's famous beef Wellington one time when I was in Las Vegas. I barely remember it because it was on my bachelor party. But that's a story for another time. So, Catherine, I
say
ask
you were
you
a
pumped for this show?
snammered?
You
Oh,
excited?
absolutely. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I'm on
psyched.
board for anything What We Do in the Shadows,
Yeah.
especially related to the TV show.
Absolutely.
So I'm so excited to watch this.
just next time you tell me about something, don't bring up shared universes.
What about the public? What about our listeners? What if they're not sick of shared universes? What if they want to know?
I don't.
Universes.
I don't think I want to associate with.
horses.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I just share. It's everything's a shared universe. Black Widow and the Captain America. And,
Yeah, I know.
And
Well-
this
well,
and Batman
obviously-
and this. Like
So
that's great.
So the
No,
Marvel Cinematic Universe is the big one, right? So that has kind of spawned all of
all
these
of this,
cinematic
all of,
universes,
everything's
right?
now a shared universe.
Yep.
And people are like,
Yep.
well, does this movie take place in this universe? Actually, this movie takes place in this universe. The one
know,
we live in,
you-
where the movie was made, that's the universe it takes place in. Not some other universe, this universe.
You know
Shut the fuck
who
up.
started the shared shared universe trend.
I don't want to know. Christopher Nolan?
Universal.
Yeah,
with
what a
their
surprise.
classic monsters. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Abbott and Costello meet the Universal monsters.
You know what's great about that, though, is they never brought up the fact that it was a shared universe.
Well, it was the 1930s and 40s. They didn't think these movies were going to be very successful, so that's probably why.
More props to them. Subtle. I'd rather subtlety.
I agree. So,
and that's my rant. Do you know what grinds my gears?
Shared universes.
Oh my god.
So a couple of other quick items here that I'll touch on. I don't have a lot of details. Just if you have something to say about it, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just keep moving, okay? And then we'll go into the movie tonight, which Andrew's going to talk about in great detail.
Great.
So Paramount Plus.
That's a great detail, but detail.
Paramount Plus is the newest streaming service, or one of the newest ones, in addition to Discovery Plus. They are going to be the exclusive home of all the 90s Nickelodeon TV shows, including Are You Afraid of the Dark? And the official Nickelodeon Nicktoon cartoon of Podcast, Real Monsters.
Oh, such a good show.
All going to be on there with Guts, Double Dare, Legends of the Tidden Temple, Legends of the Hidden Temple, Nick Arcade, all of that shit, all going to be on Paramount Plus. So if you get Paramount, I said Double Dare.
Yep, said that.
Yep, pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And we're all '90s kids here.
Bring it back to Mo.
Yep, bring it back to Mo. Hello, Mike.
Did you say that one though?
I think it's $5 a month.
The Aggro Crag.
The Aggro Crag.
Hey,
don't be smashing on the walls. All right, next quick thing. As of this recording, it will be available to you listeners right now. For us, it will be available tomorrow. The first teaser trailer for Spiral from the Book of Saw, starring Samuel L. Jackson and Chris Rock, is dropping tomorrow on March 30th.
Wait, the movie? Or the
Correct.
trailer?
The trailer for the movie.
Oh.
And did you
did we already see the trailer for the movie?
There's been no trailer for it.
Did you know that the movie Spiral is a part of the Saw universe?
Yes.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, the Saw universe. Exactly.
Wait. So what have we been watching for Spiral then? We've been watching trailers.
I don't think we've been watching anything.
No, we saw trailers.
Yes.
There was maybe like a small teaser last year, but there's a new trailer apparently dropping tomorrow, March 30th.
I just want them to drop the movie.
Wait, what?
Is that tomorrow? The release of Kong versus
Godzilla? That's the 31st. So in 2 days, Godzilla v. Kong will be out. Yep. So new trailer for Spiral is out now. If you're listening to this, let us know what you think. Tweet at us. And last piece of news, as reported by Bloody Disgusting this week, B.J. McConnell from such films as Hatchet 3 is directing a new horror comedy film starring Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters.
Interesting.
Along with many other all-star cameos.
That's
Can you
weird
name Dave Grohl's other performance in a movie?
In a movie?
Yeah, The Muppets.
Not that movie, but
Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny.
Yes.
I know. Well, Dave Grohl was in the Muppets in the Muppets movie. He was in the Muppets, so he's been in a bunch of stuff. But this apparently is going to star all the Foo Fighters. Jesus Christ! If I could only talk as your host in this show, for fuck's sake.
No one cares.
But yeah, so just a little interesting piece of news that was exclusive to Bloody Disgusting. So I love the Foo Fighters. We saw them live at Fenway Park a few years ago, Catherine, and yeah.
When Dave Grohl
had a broken leg. Yeah, at that point.
Looks like a Muppet.
He does look like a Muppet. Well, they actually said at one point,
got a Tim Curry look to him.
So I don't know if this is true or not, and I don't think it is because the Muppets came out way before Nirvana and the Foo Fighters, and Dave Grohl was on the map. But one of the people that Animal, the drummer, was based on, I thought was Dave Grohl. Because he's got the long hair, like when he was drumming in Nirvana, just like hair everywhere drumming, just like a lunatic. So I doubt that's true based on when the Muppets actually came out.
Maybe Dave Grohl
but
decided to be like that because of Animal.
Could be like that, too.
Yeah.
Could be like that, too. All right, you ready to roll into the void?
Rickety roll.
Let's do it. All right, so we are on to our movie of the night, a.k.a. our topic du jour. And I think that means that we are going to hand it over to Andrew, because Andrew wanted to drive the bus on this episode of the show, talking about a little 2016 movie called The Void, which I'm super excited to talk about. So, Andrew, without further ado, I will pass it over to you, my friend.
Oh, well, thank you very much, kind sir. Welcome, ladies and germs. We're talking about The Void 2016, as Mike had already said. So me and Mike have both seen this movie multiple times now. I think we both can agree that we like this movie a lot. Kat, however, has not seen this movie, so I would really love to hear what Kat has to say about this movie, what she thinks about it. I feel like...
I'm so flattered that you defer to me first.
Yeah, because, I want to hear because I know what Mike's going to say, I know what I'm going to say, obviously, but I'm curious as to what you think, because a lot of times when I pick the movie that we're going to do, it's a lot of, blah, meh, like you don't like it, so I want to know what you think.
I actually liked this movie. I don't remember it coming out in 2016, for whatever reason. Like, I feel like
it was under the radar.
I kind of remember movies that come out, and especially in the 2000s, but like this I did not remember at all. And I was kind of like, when it started, I was like, wait, what year did this come out? Mike's like 2016. I'm like, really? It's like, I have no recollection of this. But overall, I have like several questions that I'll probably ask during the podcast.
Ask away.
But I overall thought it was pretty solid. It was a pretty solid horror movie. It had all the elements in it, and I liked it. Yeah, that's
awesome.
my overall thought.
I appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed one of the movies I picked, because I really love this movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say that you liked it, because it is. I love this movie, and I know that when we watched it last night, you said that you had a lot of questions.
I still do.
And you didn't tell me whether or not you liked the movie or not, but I'm glad to hear that overall you liked it.
Well, I think at some points it maybe seemed a little bit like it was getting stretched a little too thin, and I think that's where I need some clarification on some questions about like what's going on.
Just remember, it's a horror movie, so you don't want to think too much about it.
I know, but that's my nature. I think like
with
way
this type
too
of
far
movie,
into
you got to
things.
appreciate it for what it is and not what it's not.
Right.
Like, don't look for things that aren't there.
If I can help her out here, I think probably some of the questions that she has are some of the same that I have, which are about the lore and backstory of this movie and what exactly is going on. Which it's ambiguous for a reason. It's ambiguous for a reason. That's fine. And I like that it's ambiguous, but in the same sense, I kind of wish they did more about it, because I think some of those parts, which I'll get into, were some of the most interesting parts of the movie. But yeah, I can understand why you might have some questions here.
Right.
Would you like me to go next about my?
Oh yes,
my
I would
thoughts?
love to know what you have to think, Mike.
So obviously, Andrew, we've talked about this movie several times before, and when we, came up with our list of 10 movies each that we wanted to cover in this year, of the year of our Lord 2021, this was a movie that came up on my list and on your list as well.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of the movies that we both had in our list were repeats. So, I was a huge fan of this movie. It's right up my alley. It's a very abstract, very gory, very much an 80s throwback monster movie, which is pretty cool, and it punches you right in the face from the beginning, and it doesn't really let up until the end. Not really the end, almost about 3/4 of the way through the movie.
I had that as one of my notes. Is that it was
not
instant,
quite the end,
but it was like instant action. Like from the minute that you started watching the movie, like you were instantly intrigued.
Agreed.
Starts real quick.
Yes,
really quick.
Oh yeah,
really quick.
Yep.
But this is a movie that, again, like we mentioned, it came out in 2016, but it's essentially a love letter to 80s horror. There's
100%. So
many movies that this draws inspiration from. I don't think rips off. I think draws inspiration from, because this movie does its own thing. Make no doubt about it. It's totally original. It's a very cool concept, but it draws influence from, John Carpenter movies like The Thing, and even Prince of Darkness, which is one of the more obscure horror John Carpenter movies of the 80s. Hellraiser, Andrew, one of your personal favorites.
That was one of my notes,
movie.
too.
So much of that in this movie, but not enough where
Not enough.
stealing. It's
not
just
enough.
It just
borrowing.
You can feel the inspiration that comes from it.
But also, in addition to that, like other 80s body horror films, like the David Cronenberg films of the 80s, like The Fly, The Brood, even something like Videodrome, where it's just disgusting stuff happening to your body. And then I just, also most specifically, this is drawing from the stories and the lore of H.P. Lovecraft, who is from New England, from Rhode Island, noted racist, piece of shit, but he did write some scary cosmic shit. And specifically this story, At the Mountains of Madness, which I'm sure you have some notes on, which is one of the few H.P. Lovecraft stories that I've read, where it is essentially the same type of thing. A bunch of characters go to a place, they experience some beings, and it draws them into such a point of madness that there's no point of return. You see this stuff and it turns you so mad and so crazy that your life is ruined and the stake of the universe is at hand, essentially. And so that specific story by H.P. Lovecraft, At the Mountains of Madness, was almost adapted into 2 different films. I just wanted to point this out real quick. One was almost directed by James Cameron, and the other one was almost directed by Guillermo del Toro. But both of them never got off the ground. And that particular H.P. Lovecraft story, At the Mountains of Madness, inspired lots of movies, but what I saw most prominently, Ridley Scott's Prometheus, Andrew, which I know that you and I are both
that movie.
Fans of. And so when I mention a throwback to 80s horror, obviously there's a ton of gore and a ton of practical creature effects.
Oh, so good.
Which are both plentiful and disgusting.
And phenomenal.
Disgusting
they
and
kill
phenomenal.
It on that level. The practical effects are so good.
Yes.
I know. I remember there's certain movies I know that you like and certain movies that you do not like. Which is why when we covered The Thing on this show, I was actually so happy with how much you liked that movie.
Yeah.
And I thought this was going to be very similar to that, but this actually kind of goes into a lot of different areas regarding birth and pregnancy and that kind of stuff, which I can see is a little bit more uncomfortable than just
a very uncomfortable
just
situation.
A bunker in Antarctica with a bunch of guys where there's aliens that are ripping people apart. So I can understand anyone that would be uncomfortable watching this type of stuff, but there's decent characters. I would say even some good characters that you root for, despite the thin writing. The plot moves, but it doesn't give a lot of time for character development, but you're not really here for that, right?
That's not this type of movie.
But I was thinking specifically Officer Carter and his estranged wife, whose name is Allison, and it's probably one of the best Lovecraftian horror movies in recent memory, and the only one that I can think of, in addition to that, which totally encapsulates absolute insanity and madness, is The Lighthouse. And The Lighthouse is probably about 1 or 2 tentacle scenes away, or a Cthulhu scene away from being the best Lovecraft movie ever made.
It's just missing the creature. That's all it is.
Yep.
It's missing the creature.
I still haven't seen that. I need to watch it.
Oh, it's fucked. We should watch it. I would love to watch it again.
You want to watch it again?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we should. Maybe we'll do it.
So those are my thoughts on The
Great
Void.
thoughts.
I know
I couldn't agree more with you, Michael. I love this movie, and it's for the same reasons that you love this movie. It's the creatures. It's the Lovecraftian effect. It ties in, the practical effects in this movie are so good, and it starts off very early on when the nurse, Beverly, is digging that...
Gouging
scissors?
His eyes out with the scissors.
Yeah.
And then she's just peeling off her face.
A lot of skin flaying in this. It's gross.
What a great way to begin the gore.
I agree. Could I stop you for 1 second?
You sure can.
So, if you were to describe Lovecraftian horror for someone that is not a fan of the genre, as Alex Trebek would say, how would you describe that?
I would describe it as supernatural creature horror. It's there's always creatures for the most part.
Supernatural cosmic creature horror, right? Yeah. So just and I would say the central theme of H.P. Lovecraft's writings is that there is a cosmic horror out there that if you are a person and you are unlucky enough to experience it and you see this or you experience it, it will drive you so insanely mad.
Can we dumb it down for everyone?
Pretty much, that's it. That's how I could dumb it down.
Stranger Things.
Okay.
That's a Lovecraftian type show.
Yes.
It's a creature, supernatural horror with a little bit of comedy in it.
I can absolutely see what you're saying with Stranger Things. The only thing that I would say that you're leaving out is the cosmic aspect. The cosmic aspect, which Stephen King has written about a lot. Stephen King has written a lot of Lovecraftian short horror stories. But yeah, it is a perfect example. But the cosmic sense of it is that there is a greater sense of worlds and beings out there that are so horrifying that if you experience them, your mind is ruined forever. And there's no coming back. Which I feel like directly applies to this movie.
You brought it up with all those other movies you talked about. You said The Thing, Hellraiser, which not only just the practical effects and the monsters or the whatever they were, the Gravinoids or whatever they were called. Not Gravinoids. That's
Which
the
one?
other
Hellraiser.
The Cenobites.
The Cenobites. Yep. But it also brings into another Lovecraftian story, Reanimator, which I feel like is there because he's reanimating in a really different way.
Yep.
So it brings up that, and I also thought it brought up like Stranger Things, which I said in Silent Hill, because you have that different universe, different dimension, and they all have the same thing with like the flakes falling from it's all very similar, and it's all very good because it just brings up something, and it also brings up a different kind of nightmare to me, which there's very few things that scare me, and I finally realized when I was watching this movie that there's one thing that I find very scary.
What is it?
And that's a dark parking lot where you're parked in the other corner and you have to go to your car.
Yeah.
Like when they were going, and
the amount of anxiety is...
The anxiety, like even if there aren't a bunch of cult followers hanging out with some blades... That's a scary...
More on them later,
thought.
From me at least.
But even, like, if you park in a garage and you're very far away from, like, the stairs...
I feel like a garage is scary, but, like, out in the middle of nowhere with a few lights that are just flickering on and off, that's pretty scary.
I feel like the situation they're in the particular part of the movie that you're talking about, right? It seems like it should be an easy situation. You have to get to a car, there's one guy with an axe, there's one guy with a gun, and there's a police officer. You're trying to get a shotgun out of the car with a bunch of shells in the trunk.
It should be
easy to get in and out like that. Get the stuff and defend yourself on the way back in. But obviously shit goes wrong, and it's just like, that is... I couldn't agree with you more. That was, I think, probably the scariest part of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but I digress. Go
other
ahead.
Question I had for you, Michael, because I hadn't really given much thought to it, but I'm trying to think of a horror movie, and I'm sure there are, that make better use out of it movie taking place in one location the entire time, like one small location, the hospital, other than a few flashbacks and instances like that, where the movie takes place in one location.
Yeah.
Like The Thing...
The Thing takes place essentially in one location, but
other
it's
buildings.
It's outside from time to time. You're not restricted to in the building. But I'm so glad you brought that up, because I can't really think of another movie besides The Thing where it takes place in one building. But this does such a good job of making that hospital
more than
so creepy, creepy, and also you have that supernatural effect of. They're going down and down and down into the hospital, and, Carter, the police officer's on the radio with the intern, and he says, we're going down the second set of stairs, and she's like, what second set of stairs?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's all supernatural.
Well, that's
which is crazy.
That's a different universe. That's where the Stranger Things Silent Hill kind of comes into
effect.
Like it's...
Yeah, so it's like if in Stranger Things the Upside Down was rated NC-17. That would
obviously.
turn. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I also love the soundtrack for this movie. It's so.
It was good.
Very
good.
It's just great use of sound in this movie, like the screaming and the weird noises that those monsters make. Just amplifies everything about this movie.
This is the type of movie where you hear a scare, a part of a scare, before you see it.
Yeah.
So you always know you hear something's coming, and the characters hear the same thing, and they're off to go figure out what it is. And you're with the characters there in real time, trying to see what they see and what's going on, which I think makes it that much scarier.
Oh, 100%.
Because I thought this was a scary movie, and I know we'll get to that category.
This movie was very scary, like in my opinion.
The first time I saw this, I remember I watched it by myself. You were out somewhere, and I was watching it, and I was like, it's like, wow, this is a really fucking scary movie. Like, I need a break for a second to go,
I was shocked that this movie was on Netflix. Like, this is, I was like, this. That's when I watched it.
Was it when it was on Netflix? Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, that's all I have for thoughts.
All right, so
I think those are plenty of thoughts. So I think what we
thoughts.
should get into next is, where do you think this movie stands with other 2016 horror movies? I'll give you a few off my list. I'm sure Mike has a couple others.
I'm actually relying on you for this list. I don't have any.
We had the Blair Witch Remake.
Oh, see, I love that movie.
Oh,
dude.
I liked the
Kat and I saw that in theaters.
That was,
I haven't seen it.
it was
So
good.
essentially, with that movie,
It was different than the first
it's a
one.
good premise to start out with, and it's a good idea for them to go out with new technology over 20 years later and do the whole Blair Witch thing again. And you think maybe they're not just going to remake the Blair Witch Project, and then they kind of remake the Blair Witch Project.
Right.
But the end of it, the last 10 minutes of the movie, I couldn't tell you the last time I've been that scared watching a movie in a theater. That was horrifying.
That's scary, huh? I gotta watch that.
Because you actually see it, you see a little bit of the witch, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's really fucking scary.
Maybe we could do that as a... Oh, that would be
I
a good,
would
summer movie
love-
when you go hiking or something.
I would love to cover that
Why don't we
movie
do
on our
that?
show. We should.
add that to the list.
Why do we have to go hiking for that?
We don't have to go hiking. I'm just
You
saying we
just
should...
brought up hiking.
No, I mean, that's like summertime hiking. Like when it gets nice out, you want to like be outside. So
Yeah.
that would be like a nice like summery movie.
Oh,
good
I
idea.
see
You know
where
what
you're
I
going
mean?
with that.
All right.
Fair
So,
enough.
yeah, Blair Witch. What else you got?
The Boy. I never saw that.
Oh, I saw The Boy. That was
I actually
Never
did.
saw
It's
it.
like a little puppet baby
yes,
boy.
yeah. It was
Tell us
super.
about it,
It was.
baby.
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember the whole plot line because I just saw it once. But
Better
my
or
friend,
worse?
My friend Jen recommended it. It was. I remember it being okay. Like I thought it was scary. I think this movie was a little. Just different.
Better or worse?
The Boy was more simple, like cut and dry scares.
so-
What did you prefer?
Probably The Void.
Okay.
The Void or The Boy? The Void.
The Void or the Void? What else?
I know where Kat's going with this one. Conjuring 2.
I like The Conjuring 2. I like both The Conjuring movies. I think The Conjuring 2 doesn't get as much critical love as the first
honestly
one, but
don't
actually...
remember. I feel like I watched it so long ago, I don't even remember.
So The Conjuring
what it
2 is
like,
about
at this point.
The Conjuring 2...
Was that the nun? Where the
That's
nun...
that's the nun where the nun first shows up.
Oh,
It's
that
based
was
on
a good one.
the famous English case of the Enfield haunting.
Yeah.
That's what that's based on. So you get the nun, you get the rickety man, and you
Yeah.
get it's basically like in one house in London with the same the Warrens.
I'd say maybe it's...
This is the
Going to a
second.
house.
It's Annabelle is like the. More.
There's some Annabelle in it. Like it's yeah.
I vaguely
sure.
remember seeing that movie.
I'd
Yeah.
say
It was good. It's good.
maybe a
The
tie.
Conjuring movies are both good, and I'm actually
Not
very
bad.
excited for the third one to come out this year, which is coming again. One of those movies that's coming to HBO Max the same day as it goes to theaters.
Damn.
Okay.
And it's called The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It, which is a long title, but
I feel like this next movie we've talked about so many times, and I'm confused because I'm like, I don't remember talking about movies from 2016. This one's Don't Breathe.
Yeah, we already talked... We didn't do a whole podcast on it, did we?
nope, not
Nope.
yet.
But
No,
we talked about
but
other
that was a
2016
really good
movies.
movie.
So I think maybe I'm talking
We
about
have talked
different
about it.
2016.
I think as recent as the last episode, we said you'll never look at a turkey baster the same.
I might go Don't Breathe over The Void.
Don't Breathe is quality.
I
I
don't know.
personally think The Void is a better horror movie. I find
I agree.
I find Don't Breathe to be a better psychological
thriller,
horror.
which is what I
Don't
like.
Breathe. Don't Breathe is a clever, twisty take on the slasher slash
It almost
like
reminds me of
almost
Saw
like
in
a
a
not
weird way,
like
too.
almost like Saw. That's what I was looking for. I don't know
Yeah.
what the like not torture porn, but like
No.
almost like the
lighter Saw.
trap horror type of thing.
Right.
That's a twisty take on that, which I love that movie. I do like The Void slightly better for me.
do. Me
I'm
too.
with you, Andrew. I'm with you. What else you got?
Have you guys ever seen the movie called The Eyes of My Mother?
No.
No.
It was a Netflix movie. All I gotta say is that movie is super fucked up, super weird, and you should definitely watch it because I thought it was very well done. I don't know if it's a horror movie. I don't know if it's a psychological thriller. I just know that movie's fucked, and you need to watch it.
Well,
I'm
I
not
think-
gonna give away anything because that movie is so weird, and I feel like I couldn't even explain it properly. So just watch it.
Okay.
Trust me.
Well,
on
I feel
this one.
like you, like I do, when I research movies of a particular year, you searched 2016 horror movies, and this came up. So there's probably a reason it's listed as horror.
It's listed as horror. It's definitely horror. It's art housey. It's like it's a foreign. I think it's a foreign film. I don't know if it's in subtitles. It probably is. Everything I watch is in subtitles because I
true.
just watch subtitles.
We all know.
So I don't even know. All I know is this movie's twisted.
I appreciate it,
weird,
though.
fucked, different, perverted. It's like on a whole nother level.
Just like you.
Just like me. It's the epitome.
That's good.
So, Cap, when you talk about movies that are Andrew movies, this is an Andrew.
Oh,
movie.
absolutely.
But
But
watch
it was
it. It's a
it was
good
almost
movie.
like a smooth Andrew.
No, not The
movie,
Void.
you know what-
I'm saying
No, not The Void,
Eyes
the
of
movie
My
he's talking
Mother.
about right now.
This movie, The Eyes of My Mother.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah.
Mike would
let me
appreciate
race
it
to
for what
watch
it is
that.
because it's such a unique, different type of movie that you don't see, and it makes you very uncomfortable.
I'll tell you what Andrew movie I'm itching to watch. It's Kill List. I'm going to watch it real bad.
Oh, yeah. You talk about cult horror movies.
I know. I want to watch it.
The other movie was Raw.
Soon.
Did you guys ever see Raw?
No.
So I never saw Raw.
Very good movie.
Did you? I heard it was super gross.
Also subtitled.
It's French. I know it's French. Yep. That's the one where the girl goes to veterinary school and she becomes a cannibal, right?
Yeah, she just starts enjoying eating flesh. But to me, it's not hard. I mean, it probably is hard. Nothing about it makes it hard.
It's absolutely a horror movie. It's been on all kinds of horror websites.
I don't find
so. There's at least elements of horror.
There's elements of horror, probably because she's eating people.
Yeah,
no
true.
Kidding.
But it's not like you would think. It's a good movie though, right up there with As My Mother. And then I haven't seen this movie. It's a Korean horror movie, Train to Busan.
Been in my queue forever.
That's
never
a zombie
watched it.
movie, right?
So that's also, if I remember correctly, and if I'm wrong here, forgive me, listeners. Also, I think directed by. I know you said it's a Korean movie, but Bong Joon-ho.
I think that's
who
correct.
did The Host and Parasite, which just won the Oscar for Best Picture.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same guy.
I think it is. Sorry. If I may correct myself,
you may.
Train to Busan was directed by Yeon Sang-ho. So yeah, Train to Busan is a movie that I haven't seen, but it consistently gets recommended to me, and I would love to watch it. You haven't seen it, have you?
I haven't.
Okay. And I know you probably haven't either.
No.
Okay, fair
Pass.
enough. Okay, fair enough.
It's too foreign for me. I don't do...
Cool. Anything else from 2016?
That's all I got. I mean, I picked some random movies because I was like, I've seen this movie.
That's fine.
And the other ones look
Do
terrible.
it however you want to
do.
Boring.
That's all,
I don't care.
folks.
I want to bring up movies that no one's seen.
Sure.
Except for me.
Okay.
Cool.
Fair.
That's how I roll.
All right. So, with that all being said, Andrew, you ready to move on to your facts and thoughts about The Void?
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much given my thoughts as to what I think about this movie. So this movie came out in 2016. It was directed by Steven Kostanski. He, a lot of these directors and the people in the movie I hadn't really heard about. They've been like a few things that I've seen, so I plead ignorance on most of this. He directed Leprechaun Returns, which came out in like 2017 or 18. It was a direct sequel to Leprechaun.
We talked about that because it was the
because we were talking about
because the guy that's directing Spiral, the new Saw movie, wants to direct a reboot of Leprechaun, and the most recent Leprechaun movie was in 2017 or 18. The one that you're talking
and that was the direct remake. And also, speaking of Spiral, the cop Daniel Carter,
yes,
Aaron Poole, he was in Spiral. As like a very
the movie we covered, the Shutter movie.
Covered, yeah, he was in that movie. He was a very small character in that movie, though.
No kidding.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And I was like, I was trying to remember who he was, and I really still have no idea who he was in that movie, but he was in it. I only know because I looked up his name.
All right.
One of the bigger actors.
Wow, that kind of blew my mind a little bit.
Right?
Yeah,
like, I'm trying to picture him in that movie, and I can't picture him at all.
Me neither. We can look it up.
Yeah.
Kenneth Welsh, who played Dr. Richard Powell.
I know him.
Mike knows him, and I think he knows him from two things. I'm going to go with Twilight Zone, Acts of Terror, that episode. He was in that.
The original Twilight Zone or one of the remakes?
Original Twilight Zone.
Don't know him from that, but
you
the second
probably know
one,
him from X-Files.
That is correct.
Yep.
He is in a very good episode of the X-Files, and he plays essentially the same character.
Wow.
Yeah.
He plays a great villain. He played the villain in Twin Peaks.
He has that
He was in The
voice.
Exorcism of Emily Rose. He's that guy that you look at and you go, I've seen that guy in something, and he almost looks like I can't even picture.
May I offer an impression?
You may.
Yes.
Daniel. That's my impression of Dr. Powers.
Like 1 minute.
Okay.
Daniel.
Daniel.
Where's your unborn child that you wish never be born?
Did you like what you see, Daniel? I can show you more. Your wife is here waiting with us, Daniel. That's exactly what he says. Go ahead,
okay.
Andrew.
A lot of the other actors and actresses I have never seen anything because they're Canadian. One interesting fact about this movie, I don't have the exact numbers, didn't make a lot of money in the theaters, but they raised, I think, about $80,000 through fans.
Wow.
Wow.
On Indiegogo.
In order to support their physical effects, which I thought was really cool. And that $80,000 went a long way because those physical effects fucking slap. They
so good.
Killed it.
So good.
That final monster at the end of the movie.
Oh, so gross.
His daughter,
so good.
after he kills that stupid bitch, the stupid girl that was like following along with this weird cult.
The pregnant girl.
The pregnant girl at the end. That weird monster at the end that's just bashing
Yeah.
and when it's just stomping on heads.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god.
I bet you didn't see that coming, by the way, with the pregnant girl. No.
No. When she's like just, I mean, and then all of a sudden the weird monster.
That's where that's where Hellraiser came into effect when he had that form and he had that weird, he just looked, that's why I was like, all right,
all of his skin cut off.
Just cut off and he just
also,
was like all
I was
membranes
thinking
and
he kind of
muscle.
looks like the Night King from Game of Thrones with all the like
little bit.
muscle things.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like he kind of had that resemblance of all that prosthetic makeup.
Yeah.
But I had that same thing. It was Hellraiser. Like he was like literally like Pinhead.
The only other, have you seen the remake for Silent Night from like 2013?
No.
So Kim, the intern, the annoying bitch, played by Ellen Wong, she was in that.
Okay.
Which, when we talk about movies, we always have categories. So I have a certain category. So we always have your MVP in the movie, which we're not going to get into, but I have a special category for worst character in the movie.
Okay.
And
the LVP, least valuable player?
Least valuable player, so that'll tie into that later. But now that we're into categories, Cat.
Is that all your, wait, before that?
That's really all I had.
Like,
there wasn't much as far as facts that I found. That was about it. It was pretty basic. A lot of people that I've never heard of.
That's fine.
Were in this movie.
That's fine.
Because they're Canadian.
I'll tell you what. Before we jump into categories, just a reminder that today's episode of America's Hometown Horror is brought to you by the Skin Store. Again, not a dirty website. For over 20 years, 2 decades, the Skin Store has been the #1 destination for premium skincare, healthcare, hair care, and beauty products. With over 8,000 different products from 300 different brands, the Skin Store has you covered for all your hair, cosmetics, supplements, and of course, skincare needs! Exclamation point! Find your favorite brands like Elta MD, NuFace, Olaplex, and more, all in one place with gifts oh my god. All in one place with gifts with every purchase. Right now, the Skin Store is offering our listeners 20% off your next purchase. That's right. If you're a listener of America's Hometown Horror, you can get 20% off your next purchase. Just use the code POD. That's POD for 20% off your next purchase at skinstore.com/pod, POD.list. Skin Store, have the confidence to tackle the day ahead. Exclusions apply. Andrew, back to you.
So, as I was saying, we're going to get into some of the categories. And I want to start it off with Cat, because Cat's usually the easiest one for this.
Okay.
Did you find this movie to be scary?
Yes. I thought that on several different levels it was scary. Not necessarily like the monster. I mean, the monster was cool. It was very intricate. I thought it was a cool-looking monster. I don't think it could exist in a real world, so that's kind of where I don't think it's scary. But I think a lot of the other scenarios that they're in are scary. Those people who are just outside, which, by the way, question number 1. What is up with the people in the robes outside with the triangle?
They're a cult.
Okay.
Yes.
So why then
answer.
do they want them not inside, but then eventually they go in, like they don't go, they want them to go outside.
They're trying to
not
keep
inside.
them from leaving.
The people
They want
inside.
them to stay in the hospital for what is about to become.
Yeah,
the doctor needs them in there for
to feed
my
off of
my
the
understanding was
monster?
that basically, so the doctor is ultimately the leader of this cult,
Right.
and the doctor is in the hospital. The cult is keeping all the people inside the hospital in because their cult leader is in there, and the cult leader is trying to turn all of these people into
also
beings.
He says at the end that he needs the cop there because his father was so loyal, and he needed him in order to progress to the abyss of that.
Correct.
The void. He needed to open up the void through the cop that was there for some reason. I mean, they don't really get into that.
Right.
But it's a
I wish they had.
It's an hour and a half.
It's one of my
movie.
nitpicks.
How are you going to get into that? You don't have time. It's a you don't need it. Yeah, that'd be great to know. But if it's not going to be a 2.5, 3 hour movie.
If this movie was 2.5 hours, I wouldn't have complained, to be honest.
They
would
have been able to get into
all of it. Well, then you
would
have been able to answer a lot of my fucking questions.
Yeah, but there's a lot of questions that aren't to be answered. They're to be interpreted. It's a movie. Just watch it and enjoy it.
Did you just say sorry for cursing on a podcast where we swear all the time?
Says, like, fucking questions. Because they're bothering me.
Okay, well, we answered that question.
So,
next.
Like, the triangle symbol. What's up with the triangle symbol? Why?
I view it as a symbol of the pyramids.
Yeah.
A delta.
So it must come back to the aliens that helped build the pyramids, is my guess. Something like that.
Well, because then at the end, you see them in their, like...
They're in purgatory.
They see there's a big, giant black pyramid that's a triangle, and they're looking at it, holding hands. Yeah.
It's like Stargate.
I just wish they were... That's a nitpick. I'll just go back to that.
I think it's meant to be ambiguous for a number of reasons. Because
it's a cheap horror movie.
So again, it's a cheap horror movie, but it's also drawing inspiration from Lovecraft, and a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's stories about that cosmic type of horror end on that note, with people basically... There's never a happy ending in a Lovecraft story. You're looking at some sort of being that you're now either worshiping or whatever. Right. So that's what I would think for that.
I thought it was a great ending.
Well, and there was even more like scarier scenarios in there that were like
why else do you think it was scary?
Like, yeah. So even like when the nurse's assistant, I forget her name, Kim, she has to potentially perform a cesarean section on the girl because then the nurse that's now dead is saying that she needed to do that, otherwise her bleeding, whatever. She did some sort of explanation. Yeah, it was like an emergency. Yep. Yes. And the girl's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's kind of like, you almost feel like if that was you and you had no idea what you... Granted, she's supposed to be an intern and have some sort of idea what she should be doing. She's still
clearly she said numerous times that she was new in the role. And I actually, I agree with you on that.
It's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Even though I had seen this movie before, when I was watching it with you last night, those scenes still gave me stress, even though I knew that ultimately the intern was not going to perform a C-section. Like, I knew it wasn't going to happen because I've seen the movie before, it doesn't happen. But still, the prospect of it happening with all kinds of shit going wrong gives you all sorts of anxiety.
So much anxiety.
Yeah, I agree. I feel you on the anxiety level. So, you want me to go about whether or not I thought it was scary?
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I do. Yeah. I mean, I know you're probably going to say no here, but I think the most telling line in this whole movie is when Carter the cop and the other collection of characters are in the basement in the morgue, and Vincent, the dad character that initially comes into the hospital with the rifle, he turns to everyone and he says, "This is hell." That seems like it would be a horrible interpretation of what hell actually would be. It looks like they are in hell. They're surrounded by beings that are like all kinds of fucked up, and they're attacking them. And it was just I thought it was a very accurate description. I feel like this is a horrifying depiction of what hell and madness, especially madness, could look like. And that's the Lovecraftian sense, right? So you go mad, you see this stuff, and there's no turning back. That's essentially the theme of Lovecraft stuff, right? It's a very disturbing movie, and it's scary in the sense that you have no idea what's going on, and it'd be a horrifying situation to be in. And I thought the scariest part of the whole movie, and Kat, you just mentioned it, was the cult aspect of it. The hooded figures with the triangle face, not knowing, to a certain extent, who is in the cult's plans, which I actually think, this will come up in my nitpicks, I think they could have led that out a little bit longer to see who was actually in the plans of the cult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the cult was the scariest part of the whole thing, because just picture yourself being trapped in a building with all these people surrounding you with knives held in the exact same place, 100 of them. That would be a scary situation. So that was the scariest part to me. As much as I love creatures and monsters, I thought the cult aspect of it was the scariest part.
They just also multiplied, after so long. Yeah. All of a sudden you see one, and then you see, 10, and then you see, 20, and you're just like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, they were being called there by the sound of that horn, which is very biblical in a sense. It's like the
Well, I want to know
the Horn of Jericho or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a very just overwhelming. Like it would almost have that aspect of The Mist in it,
Yep.
with that
Or
the
even
sounding of that horn drawing them there. And why were they drawn to that certain area? And why were you stuck in that one area? You're there. Okay,
Right.
so this is where you are, and then there's a horn going off, blaring, and it's drawing these psychopaths in hoods with knives to where you are so that you can't even leave. It's terrifying on every aspect. This movie is
agreed.
terrifing.
So,
because
scary.
not
So
only-
safe to
it's
say
not
you
only
think
a-
it's scary?
Oh yeah, it's not only a creature horror movie. It's not that far off.
I feel like the
I mean, you have the
least
Jonestown
scary
murders.
piece.
You have all these cults that do all these things. Like, it's very almost realistic in a sense without the monsters. But who's to say that that's not realistic either? This movie terrifies you on so many different levels because it plays with all your different emotions, your sense of dread, being alone, being trapped in an area, not being to leave. Like, you're just... And who you're with
Right.
determines everything. You're with people you barely know, but can you trust them or can you not? There's just so many avenues where this movie horrifies you.
I was gonna say, so talking about the people that and how they all interact, it reminded me of The Walking Dead, where all of a sudden, like, you were introduced to other people and you're like, do I trust them or do I not? Like, this is a very high pressure situation.
Very similar
like,
situation, yeah.
and you're
We're
like-
trapped in a hospital with a bunch of zombies around. We're trapped in
Right.
a hospital with a bunch of
That's-
cloaked figures around.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I get it, yeah.
I kind of like took that like connection. And I was
It makes you think about how you would react in a
in a
situation
high
like that,
pressure,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, how many bullets do we have? How many weapons do we have?
Do we trust these guys? Do we not
Do we trust these guys, right?
Like, that was...
Do we trust this drug addict that is spitting these stories about, ritual
Right.
sacrifice, or do we not
He was
trust
in
him?
these pictures.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah, that type of stuff. So, yeah, I would agree. So, yeah,
It's a very scary movie.
Oh yeah.
I agree, and I'm glad. So I think we're all in agreement here. It's all scary, which
Yes.
which is good.
Very
That's
rare,
that's very
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 rare.
rare for us. So,
What's also
Ready for the
interesting,
next?
though, so you have all these terrifying parts of the movie, but is there one scene that like stands out in your mind that you're like, this is my favorite scene?
Is this
from
the
this
next
movie?
category? Favorite scene?
correct.
So
Sorry for saying that in a weird way. That
no,
you couldn't
I know
understand.
you did.
No,
I
you
was
said it-
kinda
you said it in a good way.
okay.
I was trying to bring it up.
That was a
So-
very organic way to say it without actually saying, "Oh, next category."
I kind of want to talk about two scenes, but
You can talk about as many
I'll
scenes
say
as
the
you
first.
please.
I'll say the first scene. It's actually like a kind of weird one that I thought was kind of gruesome, but also kind of funny. Was when like everything in the basement starts to come to life, and like the guy who's already dead, like they hear the noise of him like banging his head through the pipe.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah,
Great scene.
that was gross.
That was like all of a sudden like. Well, actually, that's the only. Scene.
Well, that was
That's
right
kind of,
after
like,
they
the
said
same
that the
scene.
people down or the monsters down here
They started
are
to,
trying.
like-
They don't want to be alive, and he's keeping
Right.
them alive.
I feel like
And
that
was
is
proof of that
literally
monster.
the depiction of madness.
That is
where
yeah.
you are so obsessed with getting out of the situation that you are literally bashing your head
Yeah.
into this pipe until it goes through your brain. And
doesn't
even
matter.
after you're
Even
dead,
after that, it's
you're
still
still doing it.
it,
There's
yeah.
a huge, gigantic hole, and he
Yeah.
turns towards the characters, and you see the hole in his head,
Yeah.
which is about the size of a fucking soccer ball.
Yeah.
And like he's just looking at them, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, that was probably my favorite scene.
Okay. What else? You said you had two.
Well, that was kind of it was that, and like the fact that like they all kind of come to life at that point. Like all of a sudden, like everyone kind of starts looking around, and like all the weird like decrepit experiments.
See, I would
start
consider
kinda-
that to be the same scene,
Okay,
but
so
that's
that's
okay.
the same scene. Then yeah, then that's my favorite scene.
Okay, fair enough. I just thought when the cult first arrives at the hospital and Officer Carter goes outside to try and like get into his car and radio everyone, let him know there's some crazy shit going on at this hospital. He can't get through. And like when you first see that cult descend on the hospital, I thought that was the scariest and my favorite part of the movie, just because you don't know what's going on. All of a sudden there's these weird people, which obviously like it descends into other types of madness with crazy monsters and that type of stuff. But like that is the most human fear, right? Like people trapping you in a place where you can't get out for a reason that you don't understand.
Right.
You don't know what's going on.
And you're like,
and I
why
thought
do they want us in
that
here?
was probably the most intriguing part of the movie. And I guess when we get to nitpicks, I would say that would be the one of the nitpicks that I had, is that I wish that more of the story of the cult was explained in a little bit more detail.
Well, that was.
I like that it was left ambiguous. Maybe if they explain the mythology a little bit more, it'd be a little bit But I wish I had more, myself personally. Andrew, on to you.
Well, I was just talking about that same scene. Like, so when he's trying to radio in, when he goes out to the car the first time, and he just sees the cloaked figure, and he just goes, "Hi!"
Yeah, hi, what are you doing?
"Hi!" And then the thing just charges at him. It reminded me kind of like of Zodiac. Mm-hmm. Like of the Zodiac killer, just killing his victim. So it brought up that element of horror.
Well, it was so weird that like the police officer said hi.
Well, he was probably just...
No police officer says hi. Like,
have you seen a police officer in that situation before?
I mean, I would at least think he'd say hello.
Oh, okay.
Well, what I would say here is...
It just seemed a little bit...
I might be drawing a little bit from my MVP speech here, but Officer Carter is clearly not some hero cop.
No.
He's not, fucking...
Well, they bring that up in the very beginning when he's just sitting there and she's
he's
like...
He's not Dirty Harry. He's just there. He's in over his head, and he's trying to survive.
He's a cop.
Which I thought that was a good example of him being like, "What the fuck's going on?" I'm like, "Hi, can I help you?" Like,
that's
what
great
do
too.
you want?
When it stabs him too, like that first stab, like that goes deep, and he's able to still get him off of him, which is very good. I mean, my favorite scene's probably when you have the kid in the hospital bed, and Night of the Living Dead is on.
Yes,
kind of cool.
Yep, I noticed that.
And then next scene is Bev, the nurse. She has the scissors jammed in his eye, and she's like cutting off her face or
peeling her face.
Peeling off her face, like
so
peeling
weird.
off the cocoon so that she can become what she was striving to become.
That was really graphic.
And then he shoots her, and it's just.
I forgot how quickly after they get into the hospital they go into that.
Oh,
and then I was like, damn! Like I forgot how quickly this movie moves. For a lack.
It's an hour and a half, and it's about
lean.
10 minutes in to
not
the
much
last
you can
10
cut.
minutes. This is about a solid hour of just bam, and then there you go.
Agreed.
So, Kat,
good favorite scene.
Is there anyone you would replace in the cast in this movie?
I don't think so.
You need to pick someone because I feel like this question is getting worn out because we always say no.
I would say okay.
We usually have. I had a beef last week.
Did you?
Yep.
Okay.
I would say okay.
With Hills Have Eyes. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Why? Oh,
because Claire, my baby, Charlie, my baby.
I would say the guy who. So the guy who goes in with the I forget his actor name. Sorry. So from Always, not Always Sunny. Jesus.
You're gonna take mine.
Letterkenny.
You're gonna take mine. Ah!
Letterkenny. What's his name on Letterkenny?
Yes.
Stuart?
Yes.
No, not Stuart.
No,
what's his name?
No. So the character in the movie, his name is James.
I would say
he plays Rolled. In Letterkenny.
In Letterkenny.
Stuart.
Yes.
Stuart.
And the guy that he's with, I would replace.
Oh, that guy.
With Merle from The Walking Dead.
I didn't even realize he was from
Letterkenny.
I just realized.
Yes. I would replace the guy with the gun that he's with because I don't think he really does much for me. With Merle from The Walking Dead because I feel like he'd be
that replacement.
Such a much more badass guy that would be so much more intimidating.
So apparently that guy was in the movie Snatch, the Guy Ritchie movie with Brad Pitt and a bunch of other people. And I don't know who he played in that movie. Because I looked him up. I was on IMDb last night, but I was watching the movie and I didn't know who he was.
But I think
I was just like Stuart.
If you replace him with Merle from The Walking Dead, I think that would be amazing.
Well, so that's Michael Rooker, who's been in a bunch of stuff since The Walking Dead. Yeah. His career has kind of been revived a little bit.
Makes sense that he's in this movie because he's
great actor.
Canadian. It's a Canadian movie.
Yeah, great actor.
They like to stick to their Canadians.
Yep, absolutely.
He would have been great in that role, I feel like.
And I'll tell you, that's pretty much the one. I didn't have anybody for replacement, but I just thought it was funny to note that the guy that played James, whose name is Evan Stern, is Rolled from Letterkenny. Stuart!
So,
How about you, Andrew?
I necessarily wouldn't replace anybody if I had to, because I feel like these type of movies require a certain level of...
Corny cast members?
No, just... You don't want big names. You don't want to overdo the movie with big names. But I feel like there's a certain name that may be big, but has the ability to play a role such as this. So the cop, Aaron Poole, who plays him, I feel like if Ethan Hawke played that role, he could do it very well, because he's very good at those, between Sinister and Training Day, you combine the two together. I feel like he would do really good in this role.
I can see
without
that.
him overshadowing the movie for itself.
Yeah, I can see that. I can absolutely see that. I think that's a good... That's a good, solid cast replacement.
And I don't think he did bad, but I feel like Ethan Hawke would have elevated this movie.
Well, I mean, I'll get into it, but so the actor that played Officer Carter, he's the MVP of my movie, and I thought he did a good job, especially the chemistry that he sold with his estranged wife. And I thought that he did a good job portraying kind of like the fish out of water, like cop that had no idea, like way in over his head. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if you were to remake this movie with a bigger budget, you would have that main character be somebody like Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be somebody like Brad Pitt. It'd be like Ethan Hawke.
No, like a middle of the road, good
Absolutely.
actor, doesn't steal the show, but does a great job.
Agreed.
I feel like that would work.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kat, do you have a best death in this movie? Like, who's
I
your
do.
favorite?
Oh, well, there was a category before that. You might
What's
have.
the category?
Oh, I'll get to him.
Okay. All right.
I got him in different.
You have nitpicks?
I didn't see nitpicks in there. I don't.
That's I probably had.
We'll bring
I probably
that up.
gave you.
We'll bring that up next.
All right. Go ahead. Say it again.
Well, Kat. We all know there's a lot of deaths in this movie. There's plenty to pick from. Mm-hmm. Is there one that stands out to you that you would say, like, that's the death of this movie?
Allison was the best death, I think.
Okay, why?
Because she was captured. Like, you kind of first find out their love story. Like, it was super secret. Like, it wasn't friggin' with Josh Hartnett. What movie was that? 7 Nights.
30 Days a Night.
30 Days a Night. You kind of find out their love story, their husband and wife, they lost a
You were going to
kid,
say
blah,
7
blah,
Days and 7 Nights, or whatever the fuck it's called. 40 Days and 40 Nights.
40 days, yes. So anyways,
it's okay.
You find out that they're husband and wife, that they lost a kid, whatever, and then all of a sudden she gets taken because she didn't wait for him. And then she ends up on in the morgue with the doctor, and he's peeling his face off and whatever, and then all of a sudden she's now pregnant with an alien, and then all of a sudden she's this alien thing, and like her husband finds her and then has to chop her head off to kill her.
Right, because he sees the supernatural vision of her normal, and then he snaps out of it, and there's all sorts of tentacles and disgusting shit shooting out of her.
Yes, and then at the very end, all you see is the door, and him, like, with the blood splattering on the door. Yep. And you're just like, oh my god.
I thought that was a good scene to leave the violence and gore out of. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like it meant more you seeing it from the back.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I thought that was a good way to do that.
I thought that was my best death. Yeah, that was a good death.
Okay, good call.
Michael.
Thanks.
So, I had for best death Mitchell, who is the state trooper that arrives to help to help Officer Carter and everybody else at the hospital, and he's just kind of this, like, old, out of touch, stupid fuckwad police officer, and he gives Officer Carter some dig about his dad being a better cop than he is, and he seems just like a total dick. And once the shit hits the fan, literally, he essentially freezes up and shits his pants. He has no idea what's going on. Shits his britches. And the creature from the first death of the movie opens up the doors and drags him in, and then essentially continues to assimilate him into that. Yeah. Shove the tentacles into his eyeballs and his nostrils and his mouth, and it's so fucked up and weird. Scene. And I just thought at that point it's kind of like the first time, like, you see, like, there's weird stuff going on before, but this is kind of like the first time that you see the full creature.
Yeah.
And you get Vincent and the son, the kid that is mute because he's had his throat ripped out or whatever. They go in, they kill the shit out of it. Awesome stuff. But, like, that's the first time that you kind of really see, like, okay, this is what we're dealing with here. And the dumb old guy gets killed pretty hard, I would say.
And he deserves
so
it.
I thought he deserved it, too. Especially, like, you know, like, this cop, Officer Carter, is clearly going through a tough time. Like, he's having a tough time being a person. You know, he says numerous times, have dispatch phoned in before, like, clearly, I don't want to see my ex-wife when I'm bringing this person in. They don't do it. He brings him in. He sees his ex-wife, and he's already, like, kind of kicked when he's down. And the guy's like, your dad was a stand-up cop. He'd be ashamed of you if he saw this shit show right now. Give me your fucking weapon, loser.
Yeah, maybe
like,
you should
talk about being emasculated. Like, ugh, like,
condescending.
Fuck that fucking guy. He sucked. It was great to see him die that way. Andrew, what about you?
So I think the best death, in my opinion, is the first death in the movie because it leads you into everything. It makes you question characters throughout. So it's when Vincent and Simon are rushing them out of that house where the cult must be, and he shoots that girl, and she's like stumbling and she falls down, and then he pours gasoline on her.
Yeah, douses her in gasoline and lights her on fire.
Then he does something impossible. He takes a cigarette and lights her on fire, which has already been proven in Mythbusters that you can't light gasoline on fire with a cigarette because it doesn't burn high enough. It's not
but
high
because
enough burn
movie.
point. Because of movie, which we've all seen, he lights her on fire. And that's a great way to start the movie. It's immediate. Immediately in that movie, you go, what the fuck is going on? This person just got lit on fire. And then they enter the movie at a point where you go, why do we trust them? Do we not trust them? Like, they clearly have some sort of, they're used to killing these monsters.
Right.
When they first do it, and you're like, oh, okay, so they must know what's going on. Like, they're like monster hunters.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I find that
like how they get to that point.
Because when you first see them kill that person, you go,
I have a comment
monsters.
on that. I have a comment on that coming up in one of our other categories.
But you can bring it up now if you'd like.
I can. So we usually
nitpicks.
talk about like whether or not this movie would be ripe for a sequel. I mentioned before that I would like to see more of what is going on with the cult. I would also like to see more of what happens with that guy and the kid that he's with, how the kid loses the ability to talk, and how they come to find out that there is in fact a cult ceremony with ritual sacrifice at that house. How did they know that?
I thought...
how did they know that?
I thought the fact that he couldn't talk was attributed to... Because that's clearly his father.
Correct,
his son,
but
and their mother and daughter died while they were watching.
The son is not out of that sacrifice like the kid from Letterkenny is. He's clearly been mute for a little while.
No, but I thought
they know that. So like it was done beforehand.
The father that did that to him.
He says to him at one point in the movie, he like references his throat and his tongue being cut out, and he says, "You know what happened to the last people that didn't trust you."
Yeah, but he's
so I didn't think he was implying himself. I thought he was talking about other people.
That's his son.
Yeah, that's what I implied too. But
no, that is his son. They show that because they show that scene where he's alone with his mother and his sister, and his father yelling at him. How could you let this happen?
I'm saying.
I think the father is the one that took his vocal cords.
When though? Because those flashbacks were clearly not meant to be from that scene at that house where they walked out and shot that girl, lit the girl on fire.
No, not from that scene, but like earlier on in his life. I feel like there's a part
that's what I'm saying. I want to see more of how that happened.
So a sequel, a prequel.
A prequel. That's what I'm saying. That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I would like to see.
Agreed. Yeah, because there's something there. And that father regrets something for some reason because that's clearly his child.
Right.
They make it off like they make it sound like he adopted him, but when you really get down to it, that's where this movie
when he's getting tied in, like he's getting like pulled into the monster and he's saying do it. He already doused him in lighter fluid. He's saying do it. That's clearly,
Like-
the pain. The son is feeling the pain of having to kill his father to get away.
When I watch this
yeah,
movie,
I agree.
feel like it's a anthology.
Oh yeah.
Because
Could be.
it has so many different views. So it has all these characters and their certain viewpoint of the situation that's happening. And to me, this is like almost borderline like Southbound in that aspect. Like there's those flashbacks, and each character has their own story, and they tie it all in together, and they do a really good job of it. Where you don't think it's
And
an
it leaves you
anthology,
wanting
but I
more, though.
think it's an anthology without saying it's an anthology.
Yeah.
It very well could be. Very well could be.
Do you have
All right,
any?
so I think we covered Best Death, right?
Yes.
and we
Haunted Attraction.
kind of your MVP. Did we get into?
No,
that?
we didn't get to MVP yet, but I have
Well,
one.
we have Haunted Attraction MVP. We already talked about sequels. So
What do you want to do first? MVP or Haunted Attraction?
Well, before we make it an attraction, we should know who our most valuable player is, right?
fair enough.
Yes. Mine is the guy that is the mute. I forget his name. Kevin?
Simon?
The Son. He's named
Son.
known as the Son or Simon. Yeah.
The son, yes. I think he's the final guy, if you will, with the final girl.
He clearly is the most altruistic character in the whole movie, I would say, too.
Yeah.
He has the best intentions.
He seems
He's-
like he's been through a lot already.
Yeah, he's had his tongue ripped out. He's being led along by his father, who he probably at this point in his life does not know how to say no to. But he ultimately ends up escaping.
But
he ends up
also
escaping
makes his own
father.
decisions many times in that movie.
Sure.
When his father says, "You don't have to come," and he goes, "I'm fucking doing it," basically, without saying it.
Because
Right.
he's loyal. He's loyal.
He's a loyal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good choice. That was almost going to be my choice.
Thank
but
you.
I ultimately ended up going with Officer Carter. For these reasons. He is for this bananas situation that is going on in this movie, great point of view character, or a great everyman character, as they say. And as I mentioned before, he's not some hero cop like, Brad Pitt in Seven or whoever else. He's just your average Joe. He's just trying to get through the day-to-day. He's fallen asleep in his police car when he gets a radio in and he sees, rolled, steered, stumbling out into the road. And he's able to overcome unspeakable horrors and ultimately reunite himself with his estranged wife. Albeit that it's in a alternate, horrifying, cosmic, Lovecraftian hell dimension. But he's able to do that. That's what happens at the very end of the movie. That's the last scene you see, them holding hands in hell. But I guess the existential question about this is, would you rather be in hell with the person that you love most? Or would you rather be on Earth, not experiencing hell and pain, without the people that you love the most?
Or would you rather be in like Rocko's Modern Life and be in Heck?
In heck, yeah. It is a good question, though. What would you rather
Valid
have?
point.
Would you rather be
I'd rather
with
have
everyone
silence.
that you've lost
Give me
and you
silence.
love
Nope.
in hell? Or would you rather be by yourself on Earth, missing those people?
I'd rather be alone because I wouldn't miss anybody. No,
You're a rarity, my
If I
friend.
had the choice, fuck that.
Yeah.
Why would I want to be tortured?
I don't know. It's an interesting question, not one that we have to provide the answer to right now. But I think it's just an interesting. I think that is the ultimate question that this movie poses. Right?
Well, I wouldn't.
What would you rather have?
I wouldn't want to be in Heck because there's no remote to the TV,
That's track. That's
which
good.
is very upsetting.
You are so tight into rock modern life.
I would rather peace.
Welcome to Heck.
Give me peace, and I'm happy.
Okay. So safe to say, we talked about a prequel to The
100%.
Void. Safe to say, would we want a sequel as well? Would you guys
Yeah,
be in
I
for
think
that?
so, yeah.
I would
Absolutely.
prefer a
I think so,
prequel.
too.
I think I want both.
All right.
Because the sequel would be them like taking over
Well,
the pyramids of Giza.
So no, but did like all the people outside go away? Like
No, they didn't go away. They fucking
They're-
murdered them. They came inside and they're part of the cult.
And they went away when
they
the light
probably
came.
drank the Kool-Aid and
Right.
they died.
Yeah.
And
wait, but the Kim and
Or they might have died when Dr. Powell died.
because he's the MVP.
He's your MVP?
He's my MVP.
Oh,
So
sorry,
then
we
does
didn't get to
that
that.
make
Yeah, that means you
he's
need to
your
talk about
MVP?
your
That's my
MVP.
MVP, Dr. Powell.
Mm.
Without him, this movie doesn't happen.
So
He also had the greatest monologues throughout this movie.
He's the
Yeah.
best actor in this
Best
movie,
actor, best
and the best,
character.
probably the best
He-
character.
He propels this movie to different levels. You could make this movie
Daniel.
he's so good.
He's great.
Kills it.
Great.
So he's
great,
the MVP
great
because
role.
without him, this movie sucks.
And honestly, like, if you like him in this movie, the episode of The X-Files that he's in, he plays essentially the same character for a different type of cult, and he's the same voice, the same.
I'll have to watch
but it's an hour long, 40 minutes long for an
Well, that's not
X-Files
bad.
episode. It's really good. So, yeah, I don't disagree with you there that, you know, he's also a good choice for MVP.
So this next question, there is only one wrong answer, and the wrong answer is no.
Okay.
Would this make a good haunted attraction?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
You could do this in a
It has
parking
so
lot
much
with
potential.
with like a hospital.
Yeah.
You could.
You could rent out an old building and turn it into a hospital and make it into a
You would
So-
need the creature effect.
So I say this as a
Yes.
person, and Catherine too, as people that have walked through a haunted attraction based on The Thing, which has very similar type of practical creature effects. All you have to do in this is add the hospital setting and make those hooded figures with the triangle faces part of it.
Oh.
And I think it would be just as scary, if not scarier.
That would
Because
be
you could do the
terrifying.
same type of tentacle monsters from The Thing, and you could do that. And honestly, I feel like The Thing, don't get me wrong, The Thing is a way better movie, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time, not only horror movies. But the aspect of the cult in this particular movie, I think, is a cooler aspect of the movie than The Thing. The Thing, it's just an alien that flies in from outer space, has no reasoning, has no logic, which I think is also cool. But with this, there's a supernatural element where people are conjuring these beings, which I think is also a very cool thing. So I think you could very easily do this as a haunted house. That's just me.
Easy.
Yes.
Kat, you were going to say something.
Yeah, is there going to be a questions category? 'Cause I still have a couple questions like that haven't been.
There's not a questions category. Just ask your fucking question.
Okay.
Once we brought up the last category, I was going to ask, like, I know you probably have
Are
your
there
questions.
any
Go ahead.
more
I agree with
questions
Mike.
in the
Yes.
audience?
So just bring up a question. Let's hear it.
So what about like the scenes with the one other? So you answered my question about the guys with the hoods and the triangle significance and all that stuff. What's up with like the like this? All of a sudden, the scene like skips to like some like
Clouds.
cloud thing and
It's
like
a flashback.
So
What? No,
that's
it's not a
that's a
flash.
premonition
It
of
reminded
Officer
me of, like,
Carter being.
Mandy, right? When the little
Yeah,
bit we watched
no,
of
I know what you're
Mandy.
saying. But like, so think about it like this. So it's a premonition of Officer Carter when he pushes Dr. Powell into the void, and at the end they're shown
So it's like foreshadowing,
holding
in a
hands,
weird
looking
way?
up at the giant black pyramid. It was premonitions of that place.
Because that's why he knew what he was
Okay.
talking about. Like Dr.
Correct.
Fuckface.
I didn't
knew what
understand
was
that
going on.
at all. Like all of a sudden, it flashed to like clouds, and
That's
I was
what
like,
it is.
Why
You don't
is
need
it
to
doing
know.
that?
It was a
think-
it was a premonition. A premonition of the alternate dimension that he was ultimately going to end
But
up
then
in.
Because
they
he was
never-
speaking with him on a different level.
Yeah, they were
Because
telepathically
the doctor was always like, I saw what you saw, blah blah
Okay.
blah, like throughout the movie.
All right. Okay. I think
Next
that was
question.
I think that was my last question.
That was the one and only.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, because I already asked what was up with the pyramid and what was up with the triangle suit robes. Is the monster like based on anything necessarily? You know,
Not that I could find.
I mean, it's just a monster.
it kind of reminded me actually of the Grabber's monster a lot because that death where he sticks the tentacle like into the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a tentacle monster.
I know it was a.
It was a
yeah.
Lovecraftian
The Thing,
monster because he
Hellraiser,
loves
yeah.
tentacle monsters.
Yeah.
Do you know what was one more note I actually had? Sorry, it's like final thoughts. Can you just
Don't be sorry.
roll into
Yeah,
final
just fine.
thoughts?
You're fine.
talk.
You're fine.
One of my other notes was one of the greatest sound effects during this was when they were the caped person was dragging an axe through the hallway.
Oh yeah, that was good.
And I feel like I had heard that before somewhere. Was that like I don't know.
Was it
I don't
Silent
know if it was
Hill
at
when
Barrett's, but it was in the
Pyramid
it was in
Head?
a movie we watched
Yeah.
like recently, and it was like an axe dragging, and I
Yep.
just remember like.
No, I
when
know.
she was
I know.
hiding in
I know
that
exactly
locker,
what you
and
mean.
I was just
Yep.
like, "Oh, what is that? Like, what other movie do I remember that from?" But that noise is so distinct.
That's Pyramid Head
It
Was
might
it?
from Silent Hill.
I wonder.
Okay.
He's always dragging the.
be. Okay. The sword.
Yeah, but that's not what it is that you're thinking of. But That's what I think.
But I even thought if it was something like Barrett's or something, like
There's definitely
like,
a
was it
movie
Spooky
where
World?
somebody
Like,
drags the axe on the
so
ground.
many
was it?
movies, yeah.
Did we? I feel like we went to a haunted house or something recently that they did that, and they dragged like an axe or dragged something on the ground. I feel like it was Barrett's.
It's possible. It's probably Barrett's because they are the most creative when it comes to haunts these days. But I don't know for sure. But
Yeah.
I could see it. I could see it for sure.
Or Spooky World. Well, those are the only ones we went to this year.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was one or the other.
Cool.
Or both, maybe.
All right, you guys. Any further thoughts on The Void?
Just watch it.
Yeah, I think
Agreed.
it was good.
I would say just watch it. Yeah.
If you haven't seen
Absolutely.
it, shame on you.
Yeah, I'd give it a watch. Of course.
It's a very
I recommend
it's
it.
an underrated movie.
It's probably
that
one
came
of the
out
most
recently.
underrated movies of the 2000s because, I mean, realistically, it should be a top 5 horror movie in the last 20 years. It's pretty fucking
Top
good.
5 is tight. I would say top 10 easily, and I think it's a very good.
It's a more unique throwback horror
good.
than most
Like if
movies.
you love 80s horror like we do on this show,
I just had a lot of questions. That
Don't
was the
like
only
it.
reason why it was like kind of
that's
like...
fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's no problem.
But I did like it.
That ain't no problem. That ain't no problem.
So we all liked it, so
That ain't
that's
no
good.
problem. That ain't no
For
problem.
once.
All right, folks. Well, you've heard our thoughts on The Void, and if you would like to hear more of our thoughts on social media, here's where you can find us on the following platforms, including YouTube and Facebook. Just search for America's Hometown Horror. Search for that. You will find us. Like us, follow us, subscribe to us, mash that bell to get notifications of new episodes. You can also find us on Twitter, at Hometown Horror. You can find us on Instagram, at Hometown Horror Pod. And you can email us at hometownhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. And last of all, you can listen to our show pretty much anywhere where you get your podcasts, but specifically on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, and wherever else you may listen to your shows. My name is Mike. I've been joined by Andrew, our host tonight. Say bye.
Goodbye.
And Catherine. Say bye.
Adios, muchachos.
My name is Mike. Thanks for listening to America's Hometown Horror. It's been great to have you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye! Hey, everyone. It's Mike from America's Hometown Horror, and just wanted to say thank you again for listening to another episode of our show, because, of course, we would be nothing without you listeners. If you are interested in more local Plymouth podcasts, I would highly recommend you check out some shows by our cohorts on the Inebriart Podcast Network. That's right, the Inebriart Podcast Network, folks. In addition to America's Hometown Horror, you can find the Inebriart Podcast, Bar Talk, Theme Park Legends, Retro Redoctopus, and Old Colony Cast. Head on over and give them a listen.